Good afternoon. My name is Kenny Van Houten, and like my daughter Brinley said, I served in the United States Army for nearly 9 years. I had the opportunity to do a lot of things when I was in the Army, like go to other countries, jump out of airplanes, drive through the desert at night with night vision goggles on. I was even fortunate enough to become a United States Army sniper and meet the President of the United States. Since we are celebrating Veterans Day, I want to talk to you about what it means to be brave. Because Veterans Day is a time when we acknowledge, honor, and thank all of those that serve or have served in the military. And guess what? Every single one of them has had to be brave. When I joined the Army, I thought being brave meant not being afraid. Then came the first morning of basic training. It was dark, way too early, and I was standing there wondering, what in the world did I sign up for? Suddenly, this voice starts shouting, "Move, move, move!" And everyone started running around like their hair was on fire. And right then I realized something. I was definitely scared. But I wasn't the only one. Every single one of us was scared. And that's when I learned the first big truth about bravery. Being brave doesn't mean you're not scared. It means you do it anyway. You see, being brave doesn't just happen in the Army. You don't need a uniform to be brave. Being brave might mean raising your hand in class, even when you're not sure you know the answer. It might mean standing up for a classmate that's being picked on. It might even mean apologizing when you've made a mistake. That takes real courage too. Everybody gets scared, but brave people don't let fear make their decisions for them. They make the right choice even when it's hard. In the Army, we trained together, ate together, even got yelled at together. We learned to trust each other because no one could do the job alone. And that's another kind of courage, trust. It's brave to depend on other people. And it's brave to be the person others can depend on. You guys all do that too, on sports teams, in music groups, or even working on school projects. When you help your friends, when you keep trying even when it's tough, that's bravery in action. Veterans Day is a day to say thank you to the people who served, to the people who stood up and were brave when it would have been easier to sit down and hide. But it's also a day to remember that courage comes in many forms. Every veteran I know has been scared at some point. They just cared more about doing what was right than about being comfortable. That's what courage really is, caring about something bigger than yourself. So as you go through your day, remember this. You don't have to wear a uniform to be brave. You can be brave by standing up for others, by trying again after you fail, by doing what's right, even when no one tells you to. And if you ever feel scared about something, that's okay. It means you're human. Just take a deep breath, remember what's important, and move forward anyway. That's what brave people do, and that's what Veterans Day is really about. You know, a lot of people look to the military to protect and defend this country, and don't get me wrong, that's the primary job. But I want to share a quick story with you that taught me the same lesson from both sides of the coin. Have any of you heard of the word terrorism? Well, a lot of people don't actually know what terrorism is. Most people think of that word, they think of people in robes and masks going around with guns and hurting people. They think of extreme things. But that's not really what terrorism is, because honestly, most people in this world are good, or at least not bad. Terrorism is when one person uses fear or intimidation to get someone else to do what they want. Terrorists aren't actually brave. Most of them are truly cowards, which is why they have to scare other people into doing bad things. When I was on my second deployment to Iraq, where we went was not in good shape. People were shooting at us all the time, trying to blow us up, attacking our base. I remember asking our interpreter once why that happened. After all, we weren't there starting any fights of our own. We were building water treatment plants, building schools, hospitals, giving away food, all things to help people. So why would someone that we are helping, someone that wants and needs our help, then turn around and try to hurt American troops? It didn't make sense to me. What I learned is that these are not bad people, but a few bad people, terrorists, would come around and use fear to get them to do what they wanted them to do. They would threaten their families or their neighbors. Can you imagine what a difficult position you would be in if someone asked you to do something you didn't want to do, that you knew was terrible and not right, but that person said they were going to hurt your brother or your sister or your parents if you didn't do it? That's terrorism. I'll be honest, we don't call it terrorism here in the United States for some reason, but those same types of things happen in our own country every single day. Anyhow, I started thinking, if most of these people doing bad things are actually good people, just being pressured by a few bad people, maybe there's a chance we could try to influence them more. Maybe we could help give them reasons to be brave. So I wrote my sister a letter. She's a school teacher in Michigan. I explained to her the situation and just said if there's anything at all they didn't need or want, ship it to me in Iraq so we can give it to these people because most of them have very little. A lot of kids there don't even own a single pair of shoes. Well, my sister shared that letter with her students, with their school and other teachers, and with her community. And they started collecting things, anything. Pens, pencils, clothes, food, toys, anything. They wanted to help. And it was brave of them to help. After all, it's not easy to give away our things like clothes and toys. Well, one night it was about 1 o'clock in the morning when I got a knock on my door. I would only get about 4 hours of sleep a night anyway, so I wasn't real thrilled I was being woken up. Sergeant Van, you have some mail that came in. I was not happy. Mail? I was being woken up to get my mail? Couldn't it wait until morning? Thanks, I'll get it in the morning, I said through the door. Then another knock. First sergeant said you have to come now. I was not all too excited, but I got up, got dressed, left my room, and went to head toward the command center. No, this way, I was told, and he pointed to the helipad. As I rounded the corner, there were 4 Black Hawk helicopters that had landed in our base. Their propellers were still spinning, and soldiers were working quickly to unload them. Ah, I see. They wanted my help, I thought, but I was wrong. All 4 helicopters were full of boxes, from floor to ceiling, wall to wall, and every single box had my name on it. They were all addressed to me. Now, I have to be honest, my first sergeant was not too happy about this at first because we didn't have room to put all this stuff, and we didn't know what it was. But as we started opening the boxes, we realized what had happened. Coats, shoes, food, toys, school supplies. Every box was jam full of things this Michigan community was sending across the globe to help people they would never even meet. The next day, we had to build a storage shed to put these things in. There was so much. There was only one thing left to do. From that point forward, every time we would go outside the base into the villages, we would take a few boxes, every single time. And we'd deliver those things to the people they were intended for. I was on that deployment for a little over a year. When we got there, people called it the Wild West of Iraq because it was so dangerous. When it was our turn to come home at the end and another unit's turn to replace us, there hadn't been a gunshot in over 5 months. It was regarded as one of the safest places in all of Iraq. In fact, there are pictures of our colonel walking through the streets of those villages without any of his protective gear on. No bulletproof vest, no helmet. He didn't even carry his gun. That's how safe it had become. So what changed? It was the same people that lived there. We were the same troops there the whole time. Could it really be that people just needed school supplies and clothes that bad? I don't think it was just that. I think it was a ripple effect of people being brave. I think it started with a few people who encouraged a few more, who encouraged a few more, until there were 4 helicopters full of donations. And then the same thing happened with the Iraqi people. A few of them said, I'm not going to try to hurt Americans anymore. They're trying to help us. They were brave. They had to be to stand up to the terrorists. But then a few more did, and a few more, and a few more, until finally everything had changed. The power of all those people being brave together had changed everything. So the next time you see something that isn't right, maybe it's someone picking on someone else. Maybe it's someone who needs something you have and could do without. Maybe it's just someone who is sad or not feeling good. Or maybe it's even when someone is in danger. I want you to remember that being brave is doing the right thing, even if it's scary or hard. In the Army, in order to get certain awards, you have to make a difference, make an impact. And depending on how big that impact is, depends on the award you receive. It was this deployment that earned me a Bronze Star, which means that my actions impacted thousands of soldiers. But it wasn't really just me, was it? I just got the recognition because I stood up first and said, how can we make this right? I brought my Bronze Star and my official award with me today, and I want to close by reading it. Listen carefully to the words, to what this award represents. And then I want you to think about how this award doesn't represent one big action, but a million little things that people did together. It reads, "The United States Army, to all who shall see these, presents greeting. This is to certify that the President of the United States of America, authorized by Executive Order 24 August 1962, has awarded the Bronze Star Medal to Sergeant Kenneth A. Van Houten, Delta Company, 2nd Battalion, 35th Infantry Regiment, for exceptionally meritorious service as a Fusion Cell non-commissioned officer while conducting combat operations during Operation Iraqi Freedom. Sergeant Van Houten's actions contributed immeasurably to the success of building a free and democratic nation for the citizens of Iraq and to the efforts to win the global war on terrorism. Sergeant Van Houten's professionalism and commitment to excellence reflect great credit upon him, 3rd Infantry Brigade Combat Team, 25th Infantry Division, Multinational Division North, and the United States Army. Presented this 30th day of July 2009, given under my hand in the city of Washington, signed 2-Star General Robert L. Caslin, Jr., and Secretary of the Army Pete Guerin." I think that's pretty amazing. Thank you for inviting me to speak today.